Since EVE Online is a game that is now over 20 years old and still running strong, veteran or old-time players come and go quite frequently. You could spend 3 years playing EVE and become a master at the profession of, say, mining or industry, and then quit the game for a year or two or three. Maybe your mining enterprise was discouraged when you lost your capital mining ship, or maybe a thief infiltrated your wormhole corporation and stole all your stuff. Maybe you found other games that were less intense. EVE sneaks up on you in that way. It always starts benign, but eventually intensity and real game stress will find you. Maybe you got just a little bit too addicted to the game. Maybe your ambitions and greed got the better of you, and you found that you were neglecting other things. This leads those of us who are thinking about coming back to EVE with the question, do I have time for this beast of a game? This would be a topic for a video all of its own, but I think the answer to this, do you have time for EVE, is, well, yes you do, if you have the right level of self-control. I can tell very easily when a player is so obsessed with the game that I can see the burnout bomb ticking. I myself do burn out, but usually it's for a period of months rather than years. I'm also in a very slight leadership position, so every time this happens, there's guilt associated with it. And often when I don't feel ready, my friends start posting memes about the band getting back together on Discord, compounding my feelings of affection, guilt, and nostalgia all at the same time. So after the veteran EVE player answers the question about whether they have time, meaning, say, play on the weekends or maybe a couple of hours a few days a week, and then they need a good motivation. Perhaps they can come back to explore totally new content or a different profession, such as PvP this time. So to give you some insight into this, I'm going to use my own point of view for context, as someone who likes to sort of create things such as content. Here's my thought process for coming back. For me, the motivation often comes from the excitement around possibly altering or finding a new identity for myself through a game. No, not one that is inauthentic in any way or shady, but a for sure departure from the routine that is still a facet of myself that I've not found or fully explored. Right now I'm 3D printing something that I'm probably going to wear in real life to kind of help me do that. But for most EVE veterans, we need to see that there is something new to do, perhaps with new content, like an expansion. So for example, the last time I played EVE, the Havoc or Pirate Faction Warfare expansion was out. I saw some potential in this, but real life stresses prevented me from going too deep into it. Some of my friends kept telling me I should take some leadership and content creation roles among the new pirate players in LoSec from this. It was real life that got in the way this time. The thing to keep in mind here is that there may be some awesome new gameplay aspects that have come out for the game that you should be aware of. So the first thing I recommend that you do, as I have, is go to EVE Online on YouTube and see if there are any new trailers or expansion details. In this case, I learned more about the EVE Vanguard first-person shooter spin-off game. This reminds me of the semi-failed attempt at this years ago called Dust 514, but this appears to be different. I know EVE in space is not supposed to be about the human perspective as you sort of become the spaceship, but I honestly think it's time to view the EVE universe and these glorious ships from a first-person perspective in some way. So I'm kind of excited about that. Now, other than EVE Vanguard and EVE Havoc, which I'm already familiar with, there seems to be nothing really new here other than starter packs, etc. So then I recommend moving on to reading the patch notes. You never know, your favorite ship might have been nerfed in some way, and you should be aware of that. So for example, they nerfed entropic disintegrators on Triglavian ships a little bit. Oh no. Well, not totally, they're more powerful in the long run, but just not right away. So little things like that are helpful to be aware of. Now, if you have an extremely detail-oriented friend or group of friends who can update you on this stuff, then that'll be a great way to do that rather than just reading through the patch notes yourself. So I often read the patch notes while the game is updating. And the next thing one does is actually get into the game. In my case, I kind of assess the social situation first. I'm the leader of a small, almost dead, but not quite dead pirate corp. It kind of keeps coming back again and again. Now as I log in, I see no other courtmates online and no recent emails. I'm kind of neutral in attitude about both of these situations. I'm pleased to find that I have no emails I feel an obligation to respond to, but a courtmate online would be nice. On the other hand, it's kind of early in the day and I've not pinged my Discord for any activities. I then assess my skill queue, and off. It's been off. Apparently I've been fully trained into Marauders now. That's great. Maybe I should go buy one. And that leads to funds. Yes, I'm kind of space rich, not in liquid disk as much as in assets and Plex, but I'm worth tens of billions. But this is not a lot compared to some of the other EVE veterans or moguls out there who are worth hundreds of billions, but it's far more than the average EVE player for sure. Being rich in this way is both good and bad. The bad part is that it gives you a little bit less incentive to play certain aspects of the game, such as grinding for hours, mining, doing PvE, or loot hunting. On the other hand, sometimes us more well-off players don't have the gumption or the ability to think on a more grand scale. So for example, I could use this money to fund other players, train them, or invest in even larger revenue sources, all of which to affect some kind of goal, and a goal I shall have. It's just not fully formulated. And of course I have to assess what ships I have available. Now I'm a small gang PvP player, sometimes solo, sometimes occasionally I have been known to run fleets of 10 or more people on the regular, so as you can see, you won't find too many mining barges in my ship hangar. I have some ships that are my favorites available, but others such as Kikamoras and solo PvP fit frigates aren't there. I had a hard run of losing ships in my last playthrough, so they're probably just destroyed. I live in Lowsec in the Metropolis region, and the system of Heck is the closest trade hub for shopping. Heck is high security space. I'm not going to be able to go there very easily as I'm a pirate with less than -5 security rating. With this low of a security rating, the police will blow up my ship if I try to go into Lowsec, or eventually they'll catch up to me and blow me up. And the station undock is going to be a hazardous place, not to mention actual war targets that are enemies to my faction may be camping the station, and my faction is the Angel Cartel Pirates. This is where an alt character comes in really handy, and I've got one here, good old Eggshan Lopan. Every EVE veteran has at least one reliable alt for this kind of thing. I recommend that everybody get an alternate account, even if you don't fully plex it. Just get it. Eggshan is my industry, trade, and scout alt, while Maximillian is of course my combat alt. Eggshan can go to Heck, or even better, the trade hub of the galaxy, which is Jita, and get all the ships and gear I would need. Now I'll log into Eggshan Lopan, who is spawning in the middle of a pirate insurgency in the middle of space, and that's fine. He's in a cloakable covert ops frigate. Apparently I was using this alt for scouting purposes. I have to get him back to our base in Navati so I can get the hauling ship off to Jita. When I get into the home system, I like to see who's hanging out in there. I see some war targets, some would appear to be somewhat neutral, and my main character, etc. And I've got my coffee, it's the morning, and in EVE we have D-Scan. And directional scan is kind of like an interplanetary space radar that detects ships out there. So now you know, I always watch D-Scan when having my coffee.
I always have coffee when I watch radar, you know that.
Of course I do, sir.
Everybody knows that. Of course we do, sir.
And then I noticed something. A Gnosis, which is a popular battlecruiser, is out there somewhere. By default, the game names the ship after your character until you change it. And it's clearly the character Johnny Grom, and he appears to be a relatively new player who's hanging out in Lowsec. He may be missioning or running some kind of PvE site because he thinks it'll be more rewarding out there in pirate space, or easier without the competition, even if he doesn't have Concord police protection. Or it's all too obvious that he is bait for one of these other shady people in local. Let me tell you, EVE Online produces skillful master baiters, and I'm very aware of this because I've been a master baiter and also been baited masterfully. Well, I'm going to find out just what this is. Now please understand, I am a pirate, PvPer and hunter. I play to fight, sure, but mostly I play for the hunt. And so I begin trying to narrow down this guy's location on D-Scan, starting with the stations, then the gates, then asteroid belts, but no dice for any of this. I have available on my ship combat scanner probes. If you cannot narrow down a target's location with D-scan, you can send these babies out to triangulate the position of the prey. If the target is not also watching D-scan or unaware of what combat scanner probes are, then he'll stay out there, oblivious to the danger. And through a combination of D-scan, deduction, and probing skills, come on guys, I'm a very skilled prober, as I've also had the unfortunate but weirdly thrilling fortune of being probed myself many times. Anyway, I probe him with expert precision, drop a bookmark, and find that he is in a Dead Space combat site, probably running it for the loot. So I switch over to Maximillian and just grab some kind of ship strong enough to catch and destroy a Gnosis. Needs to be fast, not too imposing, so I chose this Vedmak, a very sexy Triglavian designed cruiser. When I use the acceleration gate that delivers me into the combat site, I see that this person has cleared most of the NPC rats, and he's still there, in the Gnosis. And I burn to him, bad news, this Vedmak is not the speed fit one, but the slow, brawly fit one. Well, if he doesn't leave, I'll certainly take him down. And surprisingly, he targets me and sends his combat drones on me, and lets me get close, enough to warp scramble him. I'm still a bit suspicious it's bait, so I keep an eye on D-scan, but it's clear, and otherwise, hey, I'll have this in the bag. I stay alive easily using only one of my armor reppers. My entropic disintegrator beam is a tickle at first, but soon manifests into a powerful lance of destruction that can do over 1k damage per volley. It's soon over. I see this fella in the pod. Should I let it go? Bro won't leave. So I scram him, then I let him go, and he still won't leave. So fine, I scram the pod so he can't escape, blow it up, and his current body will be a meat popsicle floating in space, but he'll wake up in a brand new clone in some station in some med bay somewhere. Anyway, I'm not even interested in the loot because unless it's something amazingly bling, I'm rich enough not to care, so I just leave it. After docking up, I see that he had said some Russian gibberish to me in combat, something like "get away" and that I was an ass. It's a shame. No warrior there. A true warrior would say "good fight" and discuss the battle, and I might even be inclined to help them, but not with that attitude. So anyway, not a bad way to start back in Eve, but I still don't have the ships I want. I get Egg-Shan on the way to Jita. Now, I don't know if this is true, but sometimes I've been told I have a habit of overthinking or overcomplicating things. This is why I have courtmates like my good friend Nacho, who's been around for years and likes to simplify things for me. Because later on I did go and talk about goals and talk about what to do next, and yeah, you do kind of have to have a lot of us kind of have to have some goals to get back into Eve, especially me. I have to have some sort of goal in mind, and I do have some in mind. But to manifest them, well, that requires a bit more. It requires successful content like the kills I just had and other things to actually keep players in the game. Now I'm gonna let Nacho explain another way to get back into Eve as an Eve veteran or returning player, and it's pretty profound and deep. You ready? Well, here it is.
Step 1. Turn on computer. Step 2. Log in. Undock.
Okay guys, a little channel update as far as Eve content goes. I'd like to start making more Eve videos. The reason I didn't continue the much anticipated sequel to The Last Booty Hunters story was, well, CCP in their wisdom took away the test server, so I actually couldn't recreate a lot of those battles on the test server with, say 3 or 4 of my friends. So I'm gonna have to find a way around that, or start telling my own story as of now instead of retroactively. I would like to start making more Eve videos, however, Eve is Eve, so we'll see how things go for a couple of weeks, right? Hopefully those goals I was talking about will manifest themselves. As far as other things, yes, I did get kind of hacked last week. I endured about 11 hours of sheer panic as I watched all the videos in my channel go away, and then the channel logo get changed and the channel name get changed. However, I was able to get it under control after intense research. A lot of my older private videos got unprivated and reposted, Luckily, there was nothing embarrassingly spicy there. There was one video that was meant for our only patrons that I went on for about an hour and a half talking about my life as a YouTuber at the time, and it got kind of personal. Other than that, there wasn't that much, just some 3D previews and things like that. And a thank you to my current patrons on patreon.com/resurrected. You know, one incentive to keep me doing more e-videos is perhaps, I don't know, maybe some one-on-one private PvP lessons for certain patrons. Tell me if you think that's a good idea. Otherwise, patrons do get starship renders of their own, custom starship renders, so go check it out. It's pretty cool. Also, I've got the CG Trader model store of my own digital assets at cgtrader.com/lost starships. All this junk is going to be posted in the links or the description down below. Until next time, space friends.